So, this is a situation that has been in the making for quite some time. And early on in the year, a number of experts warned that this would eventually happen. All it is that since for the longest amount of time, there's been insufficient supply of energy in the country, and this is usurped by the demand that is there. If you look at Eskom's supply on any given day, it averages about 25,000 megawatts. Demand in summer is about 29,000 megawatts, depending on whether it's a weekend or midweek, and which then gave a shortfall of about 4,000 megawatts. Unfortunately, we've now gone into winter, which is naturally colder. And as we head into the deeper winter months of June, July, August, that is when demand is forecast to hit 34,000 megawatts. Just a simple calculation tells you that the deficit is 9,000 megawatts. And this is why Eskom, for the most part, is saying that there is a possibility of entering into higher stages of load shedding.
The Group Executive for Transmission at Eskom also mentioned that planned maintenance during the winter months is also going to have an impact on the available capacity. In essence, what does this mean? Also, Eskom has noted incidents of sporadic industrial activities. Walk us through what that entails as well.
So there are a few anomalies that are going to come through this winter. And, again, they have been carried through for the last 2 or 3 years. One of them is the industrial strike action. We know that last year we were told that that caused at least 2 stages of load shedding, as employees were not able to go to work, as others were preventing critical staff from actually going into power stations and having access. And so if this were to happen this year again, certainly it would push out the bounds of more than stage 8 and possibly into even higher than that. And then you also have the planned maintenance that they have to do, which is mandatory also, which they will try and keep to a minimum, but for the most part has to happen. But I think more worrying from today's conversation was the realization that the unplanned maintenance, has a swing of about 4,000 megawatts either way. So during the day, Eskom could have, supply of about 24,000 megawatts, and that's perfectly fine, operational. And as they go through the day, they could reach the evening peak and about 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, because that's the variance, could just disappear as a result of breakdowns, as a result of, losses and a number of other issues. Yes, it is true that they could also go from 24,000 to 28,000 as well. But our reality with Eskom over the last couple of years has been it's more likely that they will lose that capacity. And that is really scary because in a short period of time, you could go from stage 4 to stage 6 load shedding to possibly even higher.
Lungile, then with the acting Eskom CEO Caleb Kasim coming out to say that there will be an increased reliance on open gas cycle turbines during the upcoming winter seasons. I wonder if that's a good alternative given the demand and where we are as a country for the winter season.
Unfortunately, Eskom at the moment does not have that many levers to actually utilize. They've got the OCGTs, which they did say they'll be running flat out during this period. They've also been able to source sufficient diesel, is what they said, as well as the funding for this diesel as well. So that should be okay on that front. They also spoke about, that maintenance that they will be doing. And, truth be told, we are far too deep into the year and into winter for any other alternatives to be realized. We are told that towards the end of the year, there'll be some relief with Koeberg coming back online, 1 unit there, as well as the 3 units at Musile in November or December. That's the only reprieve we might get. But going into the winter months, the only savior we have is basically diesel.
Lungile, just lastly then, with the increased load shedding, The Eskom coming to say that it does not mean we are at a higher risk of national blackout. What does it mean then from your understanding? Perhaps just to offer some reprieve and assurance for the country, given some sentiments that have been echoed by individuals in the media.
Absolutely. So I think we need to understand that a blackout would be a total grid collapse. This would be all Eskom's units, power stations basically being disconnected and not being available. It would be total darkness out there. This is not a likelihood. It is not a probability. Yes, if it were to happen, it would be catastrophic. However, it is not going to happen. And why is it not going to happen? If you look at transmission maintenance, it's above 95% in terms of what they've been able to actually do. So it's world class. That's the first thing. Secondly, if you look at the system operator, this is the only person that can call load shedding. They have numerous tools at their disposal to avoid a blackout. The very first thing is they will obviously have ancillary services just to manage the grid frequency and to stabilize it in the short term. They then have a multitude of options such as demand side, reduction, speaking to their large customers and asking them to reduce demand, looking at load curtailment. And then, of course, the very last lever is then load shedding. And for as long as you are load shedding, you cannot have grid collapse. And as we've seen in other countries around the world, the more load shedding that you have, you're actually more secure and you're even safer. We're currently in stage 6 load shedding. If need be, they can certainly take it to higher stages, which they most probably will. There's also a document which is being updated, which will allow Eskom to go up to stage 16 of load shedding. Not that that's going to happen, but should there be a risk of grid collapse, they can certainly use all those levers as well.
Lungile, knowledge is power, and it's so important to distinguish between facts and opinion. So thank you for your time here on the SABC, for weighing in on the back of the developments announced by Eskom, of course, earlier on this was during a briefing regarding its power grid and load shedding that we, of course, can expect this coming winter. Again, thank you very much to Lungile for her time here on the SABC.